Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of PTV FC. As always, I'm Louie Pasculli, joined alongside Graham Marshman. We had a fantastic game, much to your dismay, unfortunately, Graham, this past week. Dortmund played Chelsea in the first leg of the Champions League. Dortmund was home. They ended up grabbing a goal late. I'll give you the floor because you were pretty adamant before the show about it. What were your thoughts initially about the game?
Dortmund never should have won that game. Never should have won that game. Chelsea gets caught out on one breakaway. Adeyemi, I gotta give it to him. He handled himself well, got around the keeper, finished the goal, did what he was supposed to do. But Chelsea was the far better team in this game. Far better team. We had so many more opportunities. Goal line clearances by Emery Chan. I mean, it just didn't go our way. But it's hard to play at Dortmund. The yellow wall, infamous for being very hard to play at. So we have next game coming up at Stamford Bridge when we'll be on spring break. So I won't be able to see you in person to make fun of you for when Chelsea wins this second leg here. But, we'll see how it goes in the second leg at the Bridge. I think I'm looking very high for Chelsea's chances here.
Chelsea certainly had a lot of chances in that game, but the few chances Dortmund had were very, very good. I mean, there were multiple times I thought Dortmund was going to score. They only had, I think it was 2 shots on target, but a lot of those chances that were off target were very, very close. And then, like you said, in the end, Dortmund was able to capitalize with Adeyemi, who's been playing great this season, by the way, both in the domestic league of the Bundesliga as well as the Champions League. He was able to put one in the back of the net. I agree with you. I'm excited for when we go over to Chelsea's home, and we shout out Chelsea at home, and all the supporters are mad, and then Dortmund goes on to the next leg of the Champions League, because I think that is something that very well could happen, and I'm very excited for that. That's my prediction.
No. I think that this Chelsea team, we have a game. We have a London derby, very big London derby against Spurs on Sunday. So we haven't figured it out just yet. I mean, bringing in so many new players who have really they've been thrown right into the squad. Like, there's been no time for them to really develop, work with the team. There's not an off season. They've been brought in January and play, like Enzo Fernandez has started every single game since he has been bought by this team. He's just been thrown right in there to learn the system and play alongside players he's never played with before. You got Mikhail Mudryk, who's played a majority of these games since he's been brought into the team. You have David Fofana, who's been playing games with this team. Makiye, who's been playing games with the team. Badiashile, who started almost every game with this team since he's been brought in. We got these guys coming in, very young guys, very talented guys, but they've came right in. They've been thrown right into the mix, and we got to hope that, we can do the best with what we have. I mean, we looked João Felix looked great against Borussia Dortmund. He was really making chances happen. He had a goal line clearance against them. I mean, it was really unfortunate. But this second leg, we now have Raheem Sterling back. Raheem Sterling, who played about 40 minutes against Southampton at the weekend, had 2 chances cleared off the goal line against Southampton. I mean, it was unfortunate. He definitely should have scored the 2, but it was just good defending from Southampton. But he's going to be a big difference maker coming up in this next leg.
Yeah, Raheem Sterling, I low-key forgot was on Chelsea because he hasn't been playing, and with the transfer and everything, I don't associate him with Chelsea quite just yet. But you're right, he's a very good player to have on the wing, already with a star-studded Chelsea team that they've really amassed through the transfer window. He's going to be a big addition to that Chelsea squad. And I think looking at domestic play for both these teams will give a good indication of how these teams will play in the Champions League. So, for example,
there is no correlation between domestic and Champions League, Louis.
I disagree.
I don't believe it. I believe it.
Dude, I certainly do, because when Dortmund starts losing in the Bundesliga and then goes and plays Champions League, they typically tend to lose. I don't know about it might be different for Chelsea, but I know for a fact that affects Dortmund.
Here's the 2 biggest statistics here. The year Chelsea won the Champions League, the first time we won it in the year 2012, Chelsea won the Champions League. We finished 10th in the Premier League that year. We finished 10th in the Premier League. The next time we won the Champions League, we were in 6th at the time of winning it, ended up finishing in 4th. Thank God, Gareth Bale, for helping us there. But we never, we were barely on the edge of qualifying. I think it was on the last day, we had a game right before we had the Champions League final. And then the next week we had our last game and we needed to win that game to qualify or win the Champions League to qualify. We won the Champions League. So with Chelsea, maybe with Dortmund it's different, but with Chelsea, if we are playing terribly in the league, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for some reason, and we go into the Champions League and we've won it twice when we've been playing horribly in the league. And actually, we
That's
very
really
much underperformed in the years we've won the Premier League.
Well, that's really interesting that you say that, because for Dortmund, it certainly correlates. So, for example, before this game against Chelsea, Dortmund had won 6 domestic games in a row. They were chasing Bayern Munich, who was ahead of them, also Union Berlin. Now they're tied with both those two teams. But they'd won 6 in a row. They ended up beating Chelsea, and then they won their 7th game just this weekend. And I have to go back and look when Dortmund won the Champions League, where they finished in the German league. But I believe it was pretty high, because that was back with Jurgen Klopp, and that Dortmund team was very, very good. So I don't know. I see Dortmund, when I see them play in the Champions League, I always look back to league play, because I do think it correlates. So, for example, back when, well, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago, but when they lost to PSG in the Champions League, they're not playing good at the league during the domestic play. That was when they had a chance to chase down Bayern Munich towards the end of the season. They couldn't do it. They ended up falling off, losing a few games. So that's why I say, as a Dortmund fan, that it certainly correlates. It could be different for Premier League and Premier League teams such as Chelsea. I mean, Man City is an example, I guess you could say, where they do fantastic in the league, and then in the Champions League they usually fold. So it's an inverse example. But for Dortmund personally, I know for a fact it correlates.
Yeah, I mean, it does always come down to the manager too, because
That's true.
like Borussia Dortmund, and Chelsea, they do share a lot of common factors. Like when we won the Champions League, we had that was Christian Pulisic's 2nd year from Dortmund, and Thomas Tuchel, former Dortmund manager, coaching at Chelsea. And when we won that Champions League, Thomas Tuchel really seemed to be the coach that was brought in to figure out how to win us trophies. We might not have done the best in the league the next year, or when he was sacked at the beginning of this year, but it really seemed like he knew how to win games when we needed to win games. Like the way we played against when we played against Real Madrid, and when we played against when we played against Man City in the final, like Thomas Tuchel was really the manager to win us those games. So there's also a big correlation there, having like that shared history a little bit, and having the manager for us, like from you guys, come in and help us win a Champions League is nice and everything. But then again, if you guys are losing games in the Bundesliga, it's a little different than losing games in the Premier League, because Premier League teams seem to have a higher standard than Bundesliga teams. If you're losing to teams like Freiburg compared to, Liverpool, Man United, it can be a little different, maybe have a little bit of a shot at your morale, because Dortmund is a top side in Europe in a very top-heavy league. So if they're losing games in that league, it probably hits a little bit harder than losing games in the Premier League.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. And actually, I'm looking now back to 2010, 2011, 2012, when Dortmund, I misspoke, by the way, I was talking about when they won the Bundesliga with Jurgen Klopp, not the Champions League. They actually only got to the group stage in that year in 2011, 2012 of the Champions League, and then the same thing with the year before. So I guess back then there was no correlation, but I just feel as though as of recently there certainly is, and that's a good point what you said. Like the Premier League teams overall, top to bottom, are certainly more competitive than the Bundesliga teams as a whole. But speaking of Bundesliga teams, right now at the top of the table, it is absolutely knotted up. Mayhem at the top 6 teams are just separated by a few points, and if I could click the correct tab and actually find the table, that would be really awesome. But I know for a fact that Borussia Drotmund, FC Union Berlin, and Bayern Munich are all tied at 43 at the top of the table, and the next 3 teams are just a few points away.
Yeah, I mean, at the top of the table, it's a shootout, man. You really don't know who's going to come through, and I'm so happy to see a team like Union Berlin really competing in the Bundesliga, like really putting up a solid fight against these like top teams that have kind of dominated the Bundesliga for so many years. I mean, Bayern's won it 10 years in a row. I have the jersey in here with the 10-year patch on it, so it's been a rough 10 years, hasn't it, Louie? But then you got teams like RB Leipzig with Christopher Nkunku, soon to be Chelsea player, Freiburg, and Eisern Frankfurt. And then those teams are only within like 7 points of the top of the table, 6 and 7 points. I mean, the furthest team in 6th, Frankfurt, is only 5 points from the top of the table. They're only 5 points away, and everyone's played 21 games. There's no games in hand for anyone. Like, it's a race, man. This is the most competitive we've probably seen the Bundesliga in years. Yes, Bayern's goal differential is way higher than everyone else's, and they're probably, if it comes down to goal differential, Bayern's obviously going to win it with a 40 goal differential, which is just insane. 61 goals in 21 games. That's crazy to me. But like, this could be Dortmund's year. They have a very talented team. Maybe this is the year they pull through before they lose Jude Bellingham and half their players because they're one of the biggest feeder clubs in Europe. He's gone next season. He could be wearing my badge next year. You never know, Louie.
You don't have to remind me.
But I like seeing this. I like seeing this great race in the Bundesliga.
I like it as well because it puts down the narrative of the Farmers League, which I feel like we talk about every time we talk about the Bundesliga. But this is exactly where we are in the Dortmund cycle, is having hope, right? So a few other teams in major sports leagues have the cycle, and Borussia Dortmund certainly does as well, at least for the last 10 years. So basically what happens is in between like February and March area is when all the teams in the Bundesliga are very close. And I think, wow, this could be the year Dortmund knocks off, or just another team in the Bundesliga knocks off Bayern Munich, right? So we're having hope. We're going on the upswing.
We're going on the up. We're going on the up.
Right, going on the up. And then in the next 2 to 3 months, right, to close out the season, Bayern Munich just happens to win 10 out of 11 games. And then they just pull away with it. They play far better than everyone else. They improve on the crazy goal differential that they already have, and they just blow every team out the water. And they end up winning by about 10 points. So that I'm concerned that for the 11th year in a row, that is what's going to happen. So as much hope as I like to get, and I like to say, yeah, Borussia Dortmund is going to knock off Bayern Munich, I feel as though the cycle like that could happen again, or it could be even more heartbreaking with Union Berlin playing as good defense as they are, only giving up 24 goals in 21 games. They could with their led by their defense, they could be able to play good enough down the stretch later part of the season to knock off Bayern Munich, and then the hope would be all lost for Borussia Dortmund as well, because then, like you said, Jude Bellingham would be gone, and they probably would sell off some of their older players.
Here's the thing: you say Dortmund has, like, it's the Bundesliga has a cycle. Dortmund has a cycle too, Louis. Dortmund has a cycle where they have a bad year usually, and then these young talents they bring in or they develop from the academy, they put into the first team, they get better. You can say like Erling Haaland, Jadon Sancho, Christian Pulisic, just to name a few guys. Like, they were Jude Bellingham was part of that team. He was a little young, but he was part of that team. Just, really building up those players over the years. And then you have, like, you look at past teams, like people like Max Hummels, who came back. Sami Khedira used to be on, a lot of these German guys, you build up these kids, and then, here comes Chelsea, pick him. No, Man United, take him, then you start selling them off, and your window of opportunity to win the league is passed. This is a year that your window is very much closing on these guys, especially Jude Bellingham. He's gone in the summer. That's a known fact. He's gone. You're going to make a solid 150 million off of him, but he's gone. Karim Adeyemi could stay for another year. I could see him going to a bigger club in the summer. This is his first year here, though, so you never know. Sebastian Haller, very good young player. I could see him moving on. Gio Reyna, there's been a lot of talk of him moving on to a lower class Premier League team, All these players that you have on this team. Maurice Wolf, he's a very good player that people have been looking at, and I've heard transfer rumors about. So we're going to have to see where this team goes. Is this their last year? Is this another one of those, like, another year where we need to win it, and if we don't win it, we're probably going to finish 4th or 5th next year in the Bundesliga? Or, is it one of those years, Louis? And if it is, Marco Reus is going to be there to see it.
Yeah, he's been a mainstay. The reason I got a Marco Reus jersey is because he's been with the team through thick and thin, through injury, through health. Gosh, I feel like it's a marriage because he just is true to Borussia Dortmund. He bleeds black and gold. I follow him on Instagram because I know that he's not going anywhere, which is awesome to see. There aren't too many players on Dortmund that are like that, unfortunately. But yeah, I think you're right to an extent. I mean, certainly Dortmund will be selling off players. I don't think there's any way that Gio Reyna stays. I think that because of his performance in the World Cup and him wanting to, because he doesn't start or he doesn't play as much as he probably wants to. So I think because of that, he's going to want to leave.
Yeah.
And then just looking here at the roster, like you said, I think Adeyemi will stay. Jude Bellingham certainly is gone.
I give Adeyemi a year before
Yeah.
Bayern Munich or a Premier League team picks him up. I don't think he'll go to La Liga. I could imagine a Bayern Munich or like a Premier League team, and one of the biggest Premier League like teams that picks up German players is mainly Chelsea. Like Chelsea's like pretty much one of the only teams that really picks up top German players like that. Has it always?
Werner, Kai Havertz.
Hey, but we got to talk. You're forgetting some of the greats here. We're forgetting, God, Michael Ballack, Chelsea great all the time. Used to love that guy. God, it's been a long.
The good old days. Chelsea's good old days.
Yeah. Drogba, miss him so much.
Yeah. Another player I like to talk about though, on Borussia Dortmund, who will be staying because he signed a deal until 2026, is Yusufu Moukoko. And hopefully I said his name right. Hopefully I didn't butcher it.
He's
he might be 18. He might be 23. I don't really know, but I know he's really good at soccer.
Wait, is there something going on with like they don't know how old he actually was?
Yes. So if you did not hear about it, his age is under review because people are concerned that he had lied about his age. I'm not really sure how it came to fruition, but there are reports saying that he might not actually be an 18-year-old wonder kid and he might be 22 or 23 because his origins were a little muddled when he came to the club. At least that's my understanding of the story that's been coming out. But yeah, there's a bit of a problem there. So hopefully that's something they can clear up. But he did sign a deal until 2026. So regardless of his age, I mean, he'll be on the team for at least 3 more years or 4 more years. Can't do math. So, or no, it was 3 more years. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
I mean, that just does happen. It does happen a lot. It seems like it really does. Like I've had personal instances with this. Like people I know this has happened to. Like he was adopted, had no clue that he was way older than he was. But I mean, he was the second youngest player to play in a World Cup game behind Pele. I believe second or third youngest player.
I also believe he was either the first or second youngest player to score in the Bundesliga ever.
And the fact that he might not be 17 years old. Well, he's 18 now. He was 17 during the World Cup. He was just turning 18. I mean, that if he's 22, 23, I mean, that's not that bad. At least he's not like 26 or something. It's like ridiculous. Like he's not like he hasn't hit his peak yet at 22, 23. Like he's still got a lot of time left to develop and everything and possibly become a better player. But it would be unfortunate to lose like a kid, who you think is a kid, but he's, he'll be an average player and not like one of the greats.
Yeah, and I mean, those 4 years are really important for a team like Borussia Dortmund because that's typically when Dortmund will have these players is when they're making the transition from a lesser club to a pretty big club in Dortmund, and then they eventually get sold on to a really big club in the Premier League or the La Liga, like whatever the case might be. So losing those 4 years will be a bit of a bummer. But like I said, he did sign a contract. He's a very, very good striker. So I mean, I'm excited to see him in the future because he's so young. He doesn't really play that much. He usually comes off the bench because Haller, when he's healthy, he's usually playing up top. But overall, I'm excited for his future at the club.
Yeah, I mean, this Borussia Dortmund team, I think this is their year to do it. If they're gonna do it, it's they got to do it now, or else it's gonna be another 2 to 3 years of picking out European talent here and there, finding these really good young kids, putting them into a team, hoping to win the Bundesliga, not winning it, and then they all get sold off anyways. Like you guys didn't win a Bundesliga when you had Erling Haaland.
I know.
Now last year. What place? And you guys didn't even finish very well last year because he was injured most of the season.
I believe it was 4th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I cannot take a look at that up right now. But before we wrap up, I would like to mention another player is Rafael Guerrero. He has been very
The
faithful
left
to
back. Mm-hmm.
Yep, exactly. He's been very faithful to Borussia Dortmund. His skill is awesome because he's really good in defense, but he also can help and provide some offensive attacking opportunities for Dortmund when needed. He also has the capability of scoring absolute bangers sometimes. His highlight reel is pretty fun to watch. So I enjoy him, much like Marco Reus has been very loyal. Portuguese boy. He's a lifer for Dortmund, I believe.
Marco Reus is Borussia. He's Borussia Dortmund. He's a Borussia Dortmund kid through and through. He's never betrayed his club. He probably could have went to Bayern how many times, never did. Now, did he get snubbed from the international team because of it? Probably, but maybe he should have. If he wanted to play for Germany, he probably should have went to Bayern like everyone else. But yeah, that's a story for another day. And let's see who wins this next leg here. Next leg on March 3rd, I believe. Chelsea versus Dortmund. I will be able to just enjoy the game. So we'll see how it goes, Louie. I'll make sure to call you, win or lose. After the result, I'll call you. I'll make sure. Have a nice friendly gesture after.
Okay. I can respect that. I like that. That'll be good. All right, so you just have to tune in to hear us talk about that more, as that game, like you said, will be March 3rd, the second leg of the round of 16 of Champions League. It's Chelsea, it's Dortmund. It's going to be a good one. But that will wrap up today's episode of PTV FC. My name is Louie Pasculli. I've been joined alongside Graham Marshman, and we see you next time.